Welcome to TV Crew Talk, hosted by Howie Zales. Conversations about the exciting careers of broadcast sports and entertainment professionals. Howie is an Emmy award-winning camera operator with 25 years experience shooting broadcast sports at the highest network level. He has covered Super Bowls, Kentucky Derbies, Olympics, and even WrestleManias. In this podcast series, you will learn from insiders about the broadcast sports industry and how you can accelerate your career in this thrilling, fast-paced environment.
Today's guest has 12 years of experience in television production. He's worked for the Chicago Cubs and the Big Ten Network as a freelance camera operator. Jordan Taylor has worked both in studio and on live remote productions, including sports, music, and entertainment. Jordan currently works for ESPN as an associate director. Welcome to TV Crew Talk, Jordan.
Thanks for having me. How are you?
Good. Everything's good.
Good.
So, Jordan, tell our audience how you got started in television.
So it honestly started when I was 12 years old. I joined my television ministry at my church in Chicago, and it was a volunteer basis, and they live streamed all their services live, on the internet. And you didn't have to have any experience. And I was 12. But Dad and we got into it, and I fell in love with it. I started learning how to set up live productions basically every week. How to operate them and just be, on a constant learning pattern of getting better at creating live TV basically for the internet. And it really taught me a ton of stuff before I was able to go to school. Learning how to build cameras from the ground up, tripod, instruments, the zoom, focus, putting camera lenses on, viewfinders, just the whole 9 yards of building a camera. I was doing that day in and day out, every week. And it was the thing I looked most, and I learned how to run cables, wrap cables, all the way back to the control room, and really hone in on that skill, because that's a skill that I still use, in studio in the professional world. And that's where I learned how to become a freelance camera operator, a handheld camera operator. I was doing that around, I think I got onto that camera probably like 13, 14, 15 age when I was really getting into it and getting good about it. And I started directing these multi-camera services as well. So learning how to work around music, singing, dancing, instruments, crowd, all of that taught me and showed me that I want to do it, and specifically wanting to go into music live production. But again, I was still learning. I was young. I was still learning what can I do and how impactful can I be. And I found out that I really had a love for it. And so I ended up basically running that part of the class. I didn't have to do any of the assignments or anything, because I was in charge of making sure I was directing them, uploaded, and just taking that leadership role in TV, and then coupling that with going to church and being in that type of production. I was already well immersed into it. So by the time I went to college, I knew what I wanted to do. So to answer your question, I started in church at a young age, and that's where I found myself.
And then, so you took what you learned in the church at a young age, and you went towards sports. Why sports as opposed to, I know you had an interest in music or, something else?
So sports really, it wasn't the avenue like you're saying. There was music, but sports actually came about with me going to college. I learned how to shoot sports. Basketball, football, baseball, volleyball, softball. I learned how to shoot all the sports as a camera operator, having brought my camera experience from home to there. I just needed to learn how do I shoot sports? What's the goal? What's the angle? And that's where I had a great teacher, professor of the class, and he was also the director of our ESPN 3 productions that were online. And he really taught me and helped open me up to the eyes of sports and shooting live sports. And it was fun. It was different every time. Every game is different. Every play is different. But I didn't know sports would be the one, all things television, whether it was news, music, sports, you name it. It was live, and I wanted to do it. I just seen a sports job for the Chicago Cubs. I seen a camera job for the Chicago Cubs come up online. I was searching for jobs, and I said, hey, let's go, go for it. You learn how to shoot baseball, softball in college, and I just went for that job because it'd be something that was closer to home. I wasn't ready yet to move away. I was getting those news jobs, but they were like Tennessee, Florida, Cali. I was no way I was ready to move on to to do that by myself. So Chicago Cubs was like a blessing in disguise because I was able to go home, but still, get back to graduate.
Why did you choose camera as opposed to audio or EVS, replay, anything else?
Camera was just so creative. Everything about camera and directing, I feel like just go hand in hand. And I love both. I love to do both. And camera just the most way I feel like it can't be creative ways. I just felt like for me it was most creative visually that I can make an impact on something. When we're watching something, we're watching it, and we're hearing it. And I'm not saying that either one is more important than the other, but I felt like I was more creative in camera, whereas audio, you have to be on, when you're watching a broadcast, you just have to make sure your audio sounds, I didn't feel like there was room for my creativity to be fleshed out the way that I know I can be doing music, doing news, doing sports. Whereas camera, there's endless possibilities of shooting things, different angles, lighting matter, in your camera shot. Your subjects matter in your camera shot. How creatively can you show them? How does it go? So I just felt like there was more creativity behind being a camera operator, being a director, and being able to visually show your content. But that's not to say that audio isn't important, because without us being able to hear, the visuals are they're useless.
What is your favorite sport that you've shot over the years, and why?
Basketball, I would say, is my favorite one because it's indoors, so there's no outside elements, whether it's heat, rain, snow. That was always the downfall of that. But so basketball was my favorite because it was fast. It was not, it was fast paced, different plays every time here and there, different sides of the court. They're moving. You're in one spot. Football, baseball, those are huge fields, huge, ground to cover, a lot of ground to cover. And it's a lot of stoppage. It's a lot of stoppage in those games, whereas basketball is constant. There's excitement in it. Yeah, there's excitement in those other ones, but it's like how often, like a team can come down and like dunk threes, different types of plays, pass plays, and everything is exciting. I got three, I'm sitting here for 30 minutes just for, strikeouts and balls to happen. That it just wasn't exciting to me. So basketball's always been my favorite just because of the speed. I would say volleyball is a close second because that's always fast paced as well. It does have a lot of stoppage and balls go out of bounds all the time and what have you. But
do you have a favorite game?
There's
Do you have a favorite game that you shot in basketball?
Favorite game. I did do so. My first professional NBA game was a Bulls versus Lakers. When this is the era that LeBron is on, so that was pretty cool to kind of be in that environment. It was in United Center in Chicago. So it was cool to be in that environment. I was back, behind in the locker rooms. I went into the like room. I was able to watch players come in like that. That was a cool experience. Just being on the outside looking. Now I'm on the inside of this historic building where Michael Jordan played, and had some of the best basketball in there. So that was probably one of the cool games that I've gotten able to do, and that was on NBA TV. So that was like one of my national games to do as well.
Yeah, that must have been awesome. So let's transition to where you are now. You're an associate director for ESPN. How did you get there, and what are your day-to-day responsibilities? What do you do exactly?
So right now I am an associate director, but I came here for about 2 years and 6 months as a camera operator. I was here as a camera operator. I was recruited actually online through LinkedIn, and this recruiter was like, I've seen your profile, and what you do seems to fit this job that I'm trying to fill, which is a studio operator, basically doing camera for studio shows at ESPN, which was really crazy because at that time after the Cubs, I had gathered about 5 more clients that I was working for, so to do different things around the city of Chicago. Working for Big Ten Network, TD Ameritrade Network, Stadium Network. Like I had 6 jobs, so I wasn't looking for ESPN. Even in my mind, like I had the rotate jobs going. I was a freelancer. I was living at home, just trying to make my way in the television scene in Chicago. But then I woke up to an email and was like, hey, I have the perfect job. I think that you would like. And I was like, sure. I was looking for the consistent camera job because being a freelancer isn't always looking for work. I went 2 weeks, 3 weeks without having a gig or something. So that was pretty tough. So to
Right.
have something of an opportunity to be full time was I couldn't miss that opportunity, even if it's being in Connecticut. Um, and I was pretty much sold. I was like, absolutely, I'll continue on with this, with running for the studio job, and to the likings. I impressed them and showed them that, like, this is what I love to do. And I was flown out there, took a look at the facilities, and I was, impressed. That was exactly what I was looking for. It's what I wrote on my resume to obtain a job in a highly rated television network where I can utilize my skills, learn. It was and they showed me that they care about the career that I wanted to have. And so I went,
How long have you been
got the
there?
job. I've been here now 2 years and 6 months. I was a studio operator for 18 of those 18 months for that time.
Excellent.
And I cleared when I came here. They helped move me and stuff, and I was hit the ground going. And I moved here January 2020, so a very odd time to move because 2.5 months later, pandemic started. But that's a whole other story. Um, I cleared my camera function, so like they made sure I was prepared and ready to go on my own to be operating in studios alone. And I cleared that, probably the fastest I'd seen. I remember I had to do a cord wrapping like kind of session to see if I know how to wrap cables, and it was the gentleman who was kind of giving my evaluation was like, this usually takes 2 hours for people to get. We're done in 5 minutes. And if we're going back to like when I told you in church, that's where I learned it. I'm like, I've always had it, and it was the industry thing around. So I was like, yes, that's the one skill I kept.
Awesome.
And so I started operating camera, and then of course I have jib experience as well. So that was a goal of mine, was to become a cleared jib operator here. And that was going to be a process. But again, none of this I was looking forward to moving as fast. It's whenever I could. I was always that Jordan's coming in early. He's watching people. He's asking, or he's asking, can he get a turn? That's me, and that's always been me. So that's what I was doing. And again, being here, and having the managers involved, like I was always telling them, like, I'm doing this and this, and they just kind of keep doing it, and it was getting noticed by operators and managers who were going to make those decisions about moving on or getting training, and that's it. Made it known that I wanted to be a jib operator, and that I came in with the skills. And so that's what I started doing, practicing on my own, and then getting training, and eventually passing my evaluation to become a tier 1 jib operator. There are 3 tiers to become a tier
Great.
1. And that was, past another goal that I accomplished. I also cleared as an audio function as well in studio. So I was also audio. I was an audio assistant, handing out mics, setting up communication panels for the production. So that was another skill I had learned. It wasn't my interest, like going back to audio. I don't necessarily like audio all that much, but it was they needed help. I'm always a try everything. So it was another skill. So by the time I left school, I had 4 functions, under my belt, and that looked pretty good. So moving on to associate directing, when I wasn't needed in studio, I would go down to the control room and just
Right.
listen, look, hear the environment, be in the environment, and just be around. And eventually, I was working with a director that I really liked. I loved his directing style, how he treated the crew, his creativity. And I just start, gravitating toward him, asking him questions. Why are you doing this? Why is this picture here? Why this move? What have you? Just picking his brain. And I eventually asked him to be my mentor, because he was the one I would go to, always talk to.
You just took my next
I got
question.
that.
I was just gonna ask you, who have your mentors been?
Uh-huh.
I've had
Uh-huh.
a
Yep.
lot over
Yep.
my career. I've had a lot over my
Yep.
career, at every
Hmm.
stage. So that was literally my
Yeah.
next
Yep.
question.
Yep. At going back to the church, I had 2 mentors who worked at NBC, the local NBC station, and they're the reason they brought me into the station. They showed me a new environment, and those are people I had always looked to as well. So I had it all. I had a mentor at least in every stage as well, and he really helped. Just like picking his brain, seeing why things are going the way they are, and then even as during COVID, I stepped in to be a stage manager as well when I was camera op. So I was working even closely with the director when he needed stuff. Where I would have him look ahead of stuff, catch stuff in the rundown, and I was just being that proactive, not even being asked to do that, but just I knew it was going to make me better, and I knew I needed, and I wanted to do more to get better. It was that was a position that helped also work with talent closely, because when you're a director, they're relying I knew, so becoming a stage manager or, stepping into that role helped a lot when it came to working with talent. And so, as a mentor, when he heard about an associate job, becoming open here, he's like, get your speech ready, start talking to these people, get your resume ready. And that's exactly what I did. I revamped the resume, looked at it, looked at the cover letter. No cover letter was required, but I included one because that's all I always say that, taking that extra step, that extra attention to detail. Even if they don't ask for one, I'll always send it. So I got all that stuff together, started meeting with the right managers, and even before that, because I was showing the work that I do in studio, he was able to then translate that to the directing managers. And so by the time I started talking to them, it's like, I know who you are, or at least know your name because someone is going to bat for you. Someone is vouching for you. So by the time I started getting to the interviews, I had met with these managers, and they already, knew my name, knew my story. So that was a really good feeling.
Excellent.
It was, we remember speaking to you. And I remember one manager was like, oh my God, this is Jordan. Have you guys talked to him yet? Have you guys heard his story? Like, he was so excited to tell them my story. And he's like, I'll let them do it in the interview. And that was just a good feeling that I made a lasting impression on these people individually. And then when it came down to the interview, it's like, all right, some questions we didn't ask. And again, being prepared, having talked to multiple directors, even more than my mentor, just taking that extra step to really understand what it is that they're looking for, right. Even going as high as talking to to the VP of the department. What are you looking for? What's the next steps? No, I'm not expecting it to be now, but what can I continue to do? Obviously, I think I've impressed them enough, and plus the background that I have that associate director. I became an associate director and looking to be a director to be a director here.
Well, we have some, we only have a few seconds left, but we have some pictures of you working. Just quickly tell us where you are and what are you obviously shooting. So
this one was cool. I was working my first esports competition, never having done that type of sporting event before, but it was downtown Chicago. It looked like some major money was being spent on this because I think this was like one leg of the competition. They were competing for like $2 million playing video games as a team. And it was really cool. This one is outside of Wrigley Field, again, one of my Chicago Cubs jobs. When it's not a game, they had concerts right outside, so that was fun. This is Northwestern basketball game. I was messing with the crowd, telling them to hold on because they were going to be on camera in a few seconds. And then eventually I was an associate director, so working in the control room, being like that second guy in command in the room, and helping to visually execute a studio show. This was First Take, so Stephen A. Smith, Molly. That show's in New York and control rooms in Bristol. So a different working flow that I've ever worked with. But I can't even begin to explain some of the jobs I've been on that have been really cool and really eye-opening too.
Excellent. So last question. Favorite part of working in television sports?
Favorite part about working? Is the excitement. I think I can go back to like working with Chicago Cubs. Like those fans were excited to be, in the park, in the field, and then of course had cameras around, always working with crowds. That's what I miss about being on remotes. In remotes is the excitement of being in the building, and being able to show the people at home what they're missing inside of the building is that's the greatest reward. Just to be able to translate that visually through the lens so that people at home can feel inside, like hear what we hear, see what we see, and just feel that excitement. To be able to see these plays in person is, it's completely different than looking at home, but being able to, and then having captured them, and then I get to go home and watch my work at home. It just makes everything worth it when you're working in television and sports.
Well, I couldn't agree anymore. I spent 25 years shooting sports and entertainment events around the world. I couldn't agree anymore. Jordan, thank you for your time. Good luck to you. I'm confident that you'll move on from associate director to director real soon.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we'll also see you in the remote world very soon. So
very soon. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
You got it.
Thanks,
you, Jordan.
Have a good one.
You too.
You too.
TV Crew Talk is brought to you by Ferdinand the Fur Dresser, a children's book by Brian Nolay. Available at Amazon and at www.briannolay.com. Also by the Broadcast Sports Course. Accelerate your career in just 2 days with an intensive boot camp. Learn how to break into sports broadcasting and discover the keys to building a successful career from industry veteran and Emmy Award-winning camera operator Howie Zales. Take one step closer to your dream career. For more information, go to www.broadcastsportscourse.com.